Okay, so hi everyone. I'm gonna see if we're on Facebook here, if we're live on Facebook, so just give me a second. Whenever we connect via Zoom, which is how we connect how we can share a screen. So we go through Zoom and then we go live on Facebook. And so there's always a delay of a few seconds before it starts to go. So I just wanna make sure that I'm actually on Facebook Live right now. Now, one of the things that I am going to do, awesome. I can see your posts, your questions. So if you have questions that you'd like to ask while I'm doing this, I will try my best to answer as many as I possibly can. I want to tell everyone who's been waiting for the next segment of for the first 40 days, my intent was to do it yesterday, and then life happened. It just got a little crazy. And then I was thinking, oh, well, I'll do it today, Saturday. And then we were at the office yesterday, and I said to Debbie and Marisa, I wish there was some software that we could use to just show online how to do this. And I went and just Googled, and ta-da! I found a website. It's called Classroom. It's actually classroom.forteachers.org. And it says Classroom Architect. And even though it doesn't have all of the little features that we would use in a kindergarten classroom, it's enough to be able to do this. And so I thought that it would be just a fun thing to do. Debbie and Marisa are at Brooks Community School in the Roosevelt School District doing our organization space and time training. And so in the morning, what typically happens at this training is we have the content area and what we suggest in terms of classroom environment and room design. And then we go over the daily schedule. And then in the afternoon, participants spend the entire time in the actual classroom doing some experiences, but also really taking a look at the intentional design and display of materials and how we arrange the environment. So I thought it would be fun. I can't be on for too long, however, because I know that Marisa is looking at the possibility of jumping on and doing some Facebook Live from there as well. So I thought we would just kind of mess around a little bit with the classroom, kind of a blank slate, and just talk you a little bit through, because I know there are a handful of teachers who are not able to make it today for whatever reason, but also there are many, many teachers who are not able to come out to Phoenix to do this or have requested that we help with room arrangement, and it's our schedule is tight because we've already scheduled out schools and teachers and so forth. There's lots of reasons why we're not able to reach everybody. So I thought this would be a fun way to do it. And there was so in terms of the first 40 days, my intent is to do this tomorrow and go over like what happens when kids show up on day one. Okay, so that's my hope that tomorrow. And as much as I'd like to say that I'm going to go through the entire day in one segment, it's probably not going to happen. So we'll probably do the first part of the day, and then sometime this week we'll do the second part of the day in preparation for kids. But let's play with this a little bit. And I wish there was a way to actually make this bigger, but there doesn't seem to be a way to make this bigger. So hopefully, and I can see, yeah, you all have a pretty decent look at this little layout. So this is pretty much a blank slate, but let's take a look. This is what happens when we walk into places. All right, so let's just say we've got storage units here. Okay, so we've got storage units here. Or wait, no, let's not do storage. Okay, so what happens is we have cabinets. So I guess that's what we'll call cabinets, the storage units, right? So we have built-ins. Okay, actually, I'm gonna put them on this side here. So I'm gonna move this over here. So we have built-ins here. Okay. So we've got some built-ins. Okay. And then let's pretend here that this is the front door. All right, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of right here. Okay. So here's our door. Okay. And when we walk into the classroom, here are our storage cabinets. And I wish I could push this off a little bit more. Sometimes they come in like this. Okay, so we have storage So those are kind of your built-ins that, you know, of course we love having cabinets and places to store all our stuff because a lot of us become hoarders. If you weren't a hoarder before you started teaching, you often become a hoarder thereafter. And then we collect the smallest things because we think that maybe one day we're going to need them. And inevitably we do. So here's the storage cabinets. And then let's say on this side of the room, we have our smart board. I was like, what's that thing called? Our smart board. Okay. And I'm going to set up, let me see. Smart board. Okay. I'm just going to make something that's going to be a smart board. Okay. So let's just make here, this is a smart board. And so oftentimes what happens is we want, actually, let's make it a different color here. Okay. So I'm going to take that one out. All right. Put it in the garbage over here. Okay. All right. So this is our smart board. Okay. So teachers oftentimes want to have their large circle time. Obviously, that makes sense, right? Where the smart board is. And so we've got storage cabinets here. We've got smart boards here. Let's see, what else do we typically have in a classroom when we go in? Sometimes, in the ones that we were just in, there were these countertops. There were some built-ins here. So there were some shelves. So I'm going to take this shelf here. There were some built-in shelves that were kind of, you know, shelves are always oftentimes feel like a fabulous idea. And then when you kind of get married to, you know, you're kind of stuck with them. So, you know, like it's a great idea to have shelves, but you're like, how do I make this space the way that it needs to be given the shelves that I have? So that makes it a little bit challenging at times. And let's just say here are some windows. Okay, so let me see if I have any windows. Okay, I don't. So let me just make some windows. And let's make the windows, I don't know, let's get okay, that's a nice little peaceful color there. All right, so we've got some windows here. Okay, so there are windows. And let me call that, let me see if I can get in there and actually say windows. Okay, that's nice. All right. So we've got windows, and then what I will do over here is just type in the word smartboard. Let's get a different color. Wonder if it'll let me change it as, let's see. Oh yeah, smartboard. Okay. All right. So we know that that's okay. So we've got shelves, we've got smartboard, we have windows. And those of you who have windows, it's a fortunate thing. Let me tell you, we don't have windows. We hate it. So be thankful you have that. So what else? We've got shelves, storage. Actually, right in here, I'm going to move this just a little bit because sometimes with this storage, we have a sink. So we have a sink there. And I'm going to take this one out because I think it's overkill. All right, so we're trying to build this up here. So we've got storage, sink, what else? Let's see. Oh, got comments here. Let me see what the comments look like. All right, Facebook Live. Hi, Sam. Hi, Sandy. So, oh, wait a minute. Am I on? All right, Facebook Live. Hi, Sam. Okay, I've got that. Hold on. I've got this. Let me turn my thing down. That's what I need to do. I have my iPad on at the same time so that I can see what messages come through. Okay, so I've muted that. All right, so now I can open my comments and I see that Sandy is on. Okay, so Sandy, you were part of the reason why I had this idea. You sent all your pictures to us about your classroom. And I was like, okay, so what can we do here? What can we do to help kind of give some ideas? And, you know, I probably should have looked at your video because I know you sent it and then I had slow connection. So I was like, okay, let me see what other challenges we have in some classrooms. So I'm going to show you what we see typically, okay? Typically, this is what we see. We see a ginormous square rug, and this doesn't even give it justice. We have a ginormous square rug. We usually see a kidney table, which we never call a kidney table. I just realized we call it a horseshoe table. And then we often will see teacher's desk, maybe over here. kind of turn this way, right? And then we'll see some shelves. So we'll see some shelves here, maybe to go with teacher stuff because, you know, we're hoarders. And so we've got a ton of shelves with our stuff. And then we have student table, student table, student table, student table. Oh, and then let me move this back in this corner over here. Okay, so we can fit in more tables. All right. So this is typically what we see when we go into a classroom. And then what this says to me, and I'm just being real honest with it, with when I see this kind of arrangement. This is about me being the teacher. I am here to teach you, and you know, we've made up all of these approaches where kids go to the square rug, they get direct instruction, they go to the tables, they get their worksheets or the assignment that they're to work on, and then we do a brain break, and then they go back to the rug. If they're lucky, they get 15-minute recess. And so it really, to me, not only does this say to me, I'm the person in charge here, this also says, honestly, I don't trust you as a learner. And the third thing, the third thing, in terms of understanding child development and the needs that children have in terms of engagement and movement. You know, there are so many approaches now where they add these brain breaks in that don't substitute for outdoor experiences. They just don't. And so we have to stop pretending that these brain breaks, and I'm not opposed to brain breaks in terms of like a transitional experience. I'm okay with that. I think they're fun little games to do, but they should not be to extend children's time. They need to be outside, or they need to be actively moving and grooving and engaging in the classroom. So let's clear this out, okay? Actually, you know what? I'm going to move these tables. Every time we go into a classroom, we take it out. We take a table out. So if you want us to come, you are going to have to deal with the fact that we're going to take some tables out. And we will have a conversation with you about your horseshoe table. And the way the conversation starts is, how attached are you to your horseshoe table? Okay. And here's the reason why. The reason why we ask this question is because the horseshoe table usually takes up far too much time, or space. I'm sorry, far too much space. And the truth of it is, like, I get it. I so get it. I can sit right here, and then I can have the children sit around me, and there's enough. There's enough connection to each of the kids where I can reach over and I can give them some guided instruction. I get that. The truth of it is, when you're looking at a 6 to 8 foot table, which I don't like, I prefer the smaller tables, but that's usually what schools get. Because it's more bang for your buck. You can fit more children at a table when they're larger. And so, but they make for challenging room arrangements. But so if I was sitting here, right here at the student table with a group of children, these really aren't to scale. But when I sit down and show this to a teacher, I'm still close enough to children to be able to engage with them, to see what they're doing. I'm not like 10 feet away from them when we're sitting at a regular student table. So this idea of kidney table to us, it's a large piece of furniture that doesn't need to be in the classroom. The other thing is that I've seen teachers be very effective at small group instruction, not just at a student table, but also on the floor, and do some amazing work with children as they are sitting together, 6 children with the teacher, playing games and doing some guided reading and maybe doing some exploration of materials together on the floor. And so it's quite possible to do those types of experience. And I know I'm hearing you folks now, you're saying something like, well, what about when I'm testing? But why does it have to be on a horseshoe table? So this is what we've done. We have done this a couple times after we help teachers through the breathing process of letting this go. So what we have done is we have taken and actually move this probably, I wish I could tilt this. I can't tilt it. Let me see here. It won't let me tilt it kind of caddy corner, it's like it has to be one or the other. So what we've often done is we'll put one of these kidney tables or horseshoe tables, and we will put it near the window because the window is a good place to have your science area. And so sometimes what we'll do is we'll take, and let me see, I see sofa, chair. Okay, we don't have anything in here that has what I'm looking for. Like a plant. We'll literally put a plant. So let me get green here, and let me get the circle, and we'll literally put a plant right here. Okay, and let me get, oops, made two of them. Okay, so let me take this one away, trash. Doesn't want to go away. Okay, we're gonna have to leave it there. So we put the plant right here, and then we put like cushions. So bringing this table to the ground. Okay, so that means, you know, I mentioned this before in one of the videos that a lot of tables have the part that's connected to the actual table itself, so it's bolted to the table, and then it's got the part that slides in where you can adjust the height of the table. Take that part out. Okay, and so we drop it to the ground, and then we add. This has bean bag, but it's not, we don't use a bean bag, but let's just use that for, yeah. So let's just use this here just to show that we would put maybe 3 cushions here. Okay. Oh, doesn't want to go there because it's too big. All right, so we're going to put some cushions right in there. So it's to the ground, and then we set up some materials for science. And so we would create an invitation or set up a display of some sort. Now remember, if you've taken any of our classes, you hear me say, you have to put materials that go together. So if you want children to investigate, let's say, some of the leaves that you have found outside, Debbie had a really cool idea about taking, and I don't have it with me, but packing tape. And you can go find some incredible outdoor nature stuff just within your community, your playground. And you can put on packing tape and then set it up with some hand lenses, magnifying glasses on some trays, and set it up on the table. It's a nice beginning of the school year type of thing to do. You want to make sure that if you choose a plant for your classroom, choose one that's not poisonous. A lot of our house plants are poisonous. I know that it might not be as big of a deal with the kindergartner. Most kindergartners aren't chewing on the plants in the classroom, but if you've got children who might, please be very aware of that. But a lot of our just regular household plants are poisonous, so just kind of a side thing. All right, so we would do that here in the science area. Okay. Then let's say that the teacher has, and I'm going to add a couple more shelves here because teachers do have shelves. A lot of teachers have shelves, not all of them. We've got into, especially some of you newbies or teachers that have only been in the game for a couple years, you haven't started hoarding appropriately yet. And so the key is when a teacher leaves, you go and you find out all the stuff they're leaving behind when they retire. And get on all those boards, you know, get on those boards of the teachers or treasures for teachers, get connected with them. You know, you want to get connected to people who might be retiring and getting rid of all this stuff because they surely have hoarded over the 30 years they were teaching. Okay, so teachers have shelves. Oftentimes, we find them up against the walls like this one and this one here. And let's add another shelf that's maybe over here. Okay, all right. Doesn't want to go there. Let me move the student table. It's trying to correct me from putting things on top of one another. All right, so oftentimes when teachers have, they have shelves in their classroom, but it's full of their stuff. It's full of binders, it's full of books, it's full of all kinds of stuff that's theirs. And so we ask, and this is usually a big chunk of our day, we ask teachers, oh, let me check here. We have teachers who have, oh, I lost my train of thought because I started looking at Facebook. So let me see what people are saying here. Okay. I want to get rid of mine, the horseshoe. Yeah, totally. I know folks are, and you know, here's the sad thing about it. The sad thing about the horseshoe table is that it costs a lot of money. And so did this square rug cost a lot of money. The one with all the square, like the rainbow pieces, like the rainbow colors. They cost a lot of money. Those square rugs cost upwards of $500, and those kidney tables are expensive. So the idea of when teachers say, I don't want to have this in my room anymore, I get why folks are like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, we paid good money for this. And so I get that, you know, it's hard to get rid of. How many students do you recommend at each table? Well, here's the thing about the tables. I personally like smaller tables. I like tables that can fit. And if you've been in our classroom, you've seen we do have smaller, intimate tables. Here's the problem I have with the 6 foot to 8 foot table. In most circumstances, and we're talking 5-year-old children, but this is true for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is when it starts to get a little bit better. But when they're young children, they're super egocentric still. So they're still in the process of seeing like the world revolves around them. So when you have 8 children sitting at a table, it's very difficult for children to engage in a conversation where they can wait their turn with 7 other children to say what they want to say. And they get in trouble for it. And it's not a bad thing that they have a hard time waiting. It's a developmental experience for them. And so when what ends up happening is kids are yelling across the table, or what happens is you get kids they break off. And so 2 or 3 children are talking, and 2 or 3 children are talking, and it feels super chaotic to me. So I'm okay with noise. I mean, don't get me wrong, but if we're trying to have a cohesive engagement, it's like when you go to a dinner party or you go to a restaurant and there's 10 of you, and it's like you're sitting on this side and the other person's sitting on this side. You can't engage in a way that is meaningful with the person who's sitting on the other side of the table. So what happens? We end up talking to the few who are around us. And so it makes for a challenging situation when we're helping children learn to talk and listen, you know, learn how to engage effectively with others. So I prefer smaller tables that fit about 4, 5, 6 if we squeeze them tight. But that's what I prefer. That's not your reality of your circumstance. Most teachers have 6 to 8 foot tables. And so we can typically fit one to about 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and then 1 on the back end. So what is that? 8, 9, 10 kids. And again, it depends on the size. 6 to 8 foot, there's a difference. The other thing too is the way that I set up, like if we're doing some experiences in our classroom, I have the number of chairs or the number of children who can be at an area. And so let's say we're talking about the visual arts area, and I have some easy thing, watercolors or Q-tip painting. We were talking about doing that at the beginning of the school year, Q-tip painting. And so I would have 1, 2, let me do it here. So if I had that set up at this table, I would have like 1, and these are not true to scale. These, you know what, let me pull this out because this is what it actually looks like to me when I go into classrooms. Let's make the tables. I'm like randomly choosing colors here. So don't stick to what they are. This is what they actually look like to me. I didn't like that. Let's try that again. All right. This is what they look more like to me than these are more squared off and thicker than they usually are when we go into classrooms. And this actually might be a little too long when you look at the space. But this is what it looks like. So I'm going to dump this one out. And I'm just going to write in here table. Okay. Oh, disappeared because of the color. All right. Let's try that again. Why isn't white an option? All right, table. Okay, so this is what the table looks like. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 kids on each side and then 1 on this side, that would be like for your breakfast time. So when we go into the classroom, we go, okay, how many kids would you have for your cap number? Like 25 kids. Okay, so that's the number of spaces that we will keep throughout the entire classroom for things like breakfast. But very infrequently are kids sitting at tables all of the time, or at least that's what should happen, is that children can be at this science area. They can use the table that's over here if we decided to keep the kidney table for science. They have maybe some floor space here on the rug that they could be laying down and working on some stuff. So kids will be moving throughout the entire classroom. Okay, so let me do. Yeah, I know, Danielle. I know. That's the reality of the circumstance. Last year, Sandy says, last year I had a stool I would bring to the kids no matter where they were. Yep, that's awesome. That's a really good, especially if you have a difficult time getting up and down. They have those things that I see people like at the fair with, where they carry it and then they walk and then they sit, they pull it out. I mean, literally looks like the size. I mean, it's not very big. It kind of looks like a fancy cane, I guess, a little bit thicker, and then they plop it down and then they can sit down. That would actually might be a good idea if you have difficulty with mobility. So might be a good idea. Utilizing for the mandated small group interventions. Yeah, I get that. But I've seen small group interventions happen on the floor. I've seen small group interventions happen at regular tables. I mean, quite literally, if I'm sitting in the center here, right here, and I have two children here and a child here, I can see what they're doing. I can clearly see what they're doing. And when I show this as an example, when I go out to the school, I can literally reach my hand over to the other side of the table and be completely comfortable. Like, it's not a stretch for me. And how I know this is because I've also worked with very little kids. And when very little kids are pouring milk and are serving themselves, because I'm a firm believer in self-serve meals. And so we would have 1-2-year-olds serve their own food. And so when they would, you're going to get spills. That's just what happens. Or when they start to take the measuring cup into the bowl and they start to go, I have to reach over quickly and grab it. I know that I can do that across a table this size. So if I can do that, we can actually have some very intimate conversations or observations at a table this size. All right. So, okay. So another conversation that we have with teachers, and I know this is going to hit a chord for some of you. How attached to you are you to your teacher desk? Because the truth of it is, I don't know when teachers are sitting at desks, except when children leave for the day. But the truth of it is, these tables are fine for that too. And so we have that conversation, and typically what happens is this. The teacher desk gets pulled out of the classroom. And so we try to prepare some teachers before we go out when we do classroom flips. If you notice, there are still some with teacher desks, but it is one of the things that we try very hard to have conversations about. So what we recommend instead of a teacher desk is just a space. And let me do this. So let's say, and I'm just going to put it right here, because teachers need a place to put, they got to do morning attendance, or they have a computer, or they have, oops. Okay. Let me change the color here. So they have stuff that they have to use through the course of the day. And so we're just going to keep it there for right now because we're moving stuff around. And so let's say here we have, and I'm going to kind of use what we just did more recently and in my mind because we have been doing so many classrooms. So here's a sink, and I'm going to just start moving stuff around and show you and just talk you through this. So here we have our shelf. Here's a shelf that's movable. And then these are storage, and here's the sink. And let's say here's a door to the bathroom. So let me make this red here. Oops. Oh, look, there's the other word for table. Okay. So then here, I'm going to just add right here. Let's say there's a little door for a bathroom. Okay. All right. And then what we would typically do is we would, this is not going to go with me. Okay. What we would typically do is if there are shelves, let's say the storage here has, they're built-ins with cabinet doors. And if you've seen any of our flips, you'll see that we often will take the lower half of those cabinet doors off and we will open it up for art. Okay. So we want our art to be by the sink. Okay. So we take the shelves off. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. So let's hope we stay on. So we're going to take the bottom parts and we're going to make this the art area. Okay, so I'm actually, even though this is to scale, I wish I could pull this off because this feels a little too large for me in terms of what they actually feel like. So I'm going to take these out And I'm going to put shelves right in here. So this is kind of more of what it feels like. Yeah. Okay. So so now we've created an art space and a visual arts area. And then if I have an easel, I'm going to possibly put my easel right here. Okay. Now we've got our science area here. And one of the things that we like to do is put science and math near one another. We also want to put our sociodramatic play area and our block shelf near one another. Okay, that's one of those rules, and the reason is because we actually want them to bring items into the other area. So we want the block stuff to go into the sociodramatic area, and we want the sociodramatic area stuff to go into the block area. And the reason is because there's lots of cool things that children can build for the baby dolls. There are lots of they can make beds. They're very creative about how they do this. And too often teachers get into this frenzy about children taking things into other areas. Now, there are some things like if children are painting, I'm not going to let the kid take the paintbrush and start painting in the sociodramatic play area. Actually, I had a kid do that. He took a paintbrush and he said to me that he was painting his house. So I was like, well, this is kind of where we draw the line. But the reason is because we want, often, not always, we have our little boys in our block area and our little girls in the sociodramatic play area, and we want them to combine. And so when children get dressed up in the sociodramatic play area, and we tell them to go back. That's what kills me. We tell them to go back to the sociodramatic play area with their dress up clothes. And the truth of it is when I really sat to think about it as a classroom teacher, I don't dress up and stay home. I don't. When I'm at home, I am not dressed up. And so so we want to, if they're with intention doing something, then it's totally fine. So oftentimes what we do, this is a really good example here. Okay, so I'm going to move the teacher stuff over here. We will try to shove everything out of the way to kind of create space. This is probably more of what we see right there. The bathroom and the sink are often kind of like right next to one another. Not always, but often. So we take a look at what are our possibilities in terms of corners. I always look at corners in terms of block space or sociodramatic space. The corners, and here's the thing, if you've got shelves that are about 24 inches high, that are stable, because the question is stability in your shelves. If you've got shelves that are those ones that you can buy like at Walmart or Target that are like for your house, that if you pushed it, they would fall, then you're going to need to put something behind it. Okay. But we try really hard. Very infrequently do we ever do this, put shelf to shelf. So we don't put a shelf facing this way and a shelf facing this way, back to back. Okay. Because the purpose of your shelves, the purpose of them is to provide barrier, okay? What we understand about young children is when we create spaces for them that's protected on most sides, they will go deeper in their learning experience, especially for those kiddos like me who have those letters behind their name, like ADD and ADHD and all that. It's like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. But when the area is defined on, and in the block area on 3 sides, then children are able to close out other distractions and really go deeper in the experience. So I always look at corners in terms of block area and sociodramatic play area. The other thing that we also look at is we look at quiet things on one side and noisy things on the other side, okay? So noisy things, your sociodramatic and your block area are your noisy things, and possibly your art even. And then we have our literacy and book publishing area. Then we have our science area and our math area, which are typically a little more quieter, okay? So just kind of off the top of my head here, as I'm looking at this, I'm going to make this space over here. Let me see. I'm going to put the teacher over here, the little thing that she has. That's now going to be awkward because I don't think I can flip this. So I'm just going to shove it over here out of the way. And then I'm going to make this space, that space. I'm going to make this the sociodramatic play area. So let's see how that plays out, okay? So I'm going to bring my fridge here. And if you are looking to do like a, you know, oh, what do they call where you go? Somebody help me here. I got in trouble. I've done that on the floor and I loved it. Got in trouble. I've done that on the floor. What is the, oh, see, now I lost my train of thought. I can't do both. So sink, oh, the 4-in-1. If you ever, what are the things that you can go get? They're like GoFundMe pages, but for teachers. Okay, so here's the thing. You do not want a 4-in-1. Please do not get a 4-in-1. That a 4-in-1 is when the furniture is connected. So when you have a refrigerator, a stove, the hutch, and the sink all connected. Okay, let me tell you why. 5-year-old bodies are big, and they start off little in the beginning of the school year, and then they get physically much bigger at the end of the school year. And it's very difficult at times for 2 or 3 children to play in a cohesive way and a respectful way when they're bumping into each other because the furniture is so close together. So, and it doesn't make for a good barrier. It's not a good piece of furniture. Some of them are, what's the word I'm looking for, where they tilt. They're not stable. It's like it's top heavy to some degree. And so some of them, you can push over and they'll fall over. So I don't like those 4-in-1s because you end up having to use them up against the wall so they don't fall. They're too close together. And as the children get bigger, it's harder for them to maneuver. So we don't want to do that. So you want to get the regular size furniture, but you have to remember that you've got to get them big enough for kindergartners. Okay, so that's the bigger of the group. A lot of the catalogs that you're going to look at are going to have toddler furniture or preschool small furniture. So you have to make sure that you get the ones that are big enough for your kiddos. Okay. All right. So why doesn't the fridge want to move? I don't know. All right. So let's get, okay. So we've got sink, refrigerator. Let's get a clothes stand. Okay, so usually what we do, I'm having problems with the fridge. Fridge doesn't want to go anywhere. Let me get this, try to pick it up. Doesn't want to go. The sink will go. So folks, we might be stuck with the fridge right there. I have no idea why it doesn't want to move. It's stuck. All right, so we're gonna do a fridge, a sink, and then let's say, and what we typically will do is add a little table. Now I don't have a thing small enough for a little table, so we're gonna add a little table right here, okay? And then typically we have, and I'm gonna grab another one. So it's usually a fridge, a sink, and a stove, okay? So let's do a little stove right here. Now, if you have the space, I would even extend this out. Let me see. It's like once it gets in, it doesn't want to move. All right. So if we had this here, kind of create a small little space, you would have your little kitchen area. And then you can put some clothes. What we do with clothes, oh my, that's ginormous. Okay, let's see. Clothes stand. Okay, so here's a trick that we do with clothes. You take, if you had 2 shelves and you put a tension rod between it, it's a nice place to hang your clothing. Here's a really important thing. Don't store your clothes in a treasure chest or in a bin, because it becomes a mess. It becomes just a junk container where kids just put whatever, and they just dump it in there. And unless you have somebody folding things up every day, it doesn't work. And so we really recommend, and I'm not a fan of those carousel things that turn to hang clothes that I see that in a lot of Head Start programs. Those are crap. Those are really hard for clothes to stay on. They get overfilled. Clothes get stuck underneath. They're just not good. They're hard to find homes for in the classroom. So let's just say we have right in here a tension rod, and we've got maybe a small little shelf. So we have maybe a small, or no, let's say we've got refrigerator, sink, we have stove here, and then we've got a little table. So the little table only needs to fit 2 kids, okay? And I wish I could move this. I don't know why it won't let me move it. Look at that. I can move these, but I can't move this because this isn't exactly where I want it to be. So imagine that this is fridge, sink, stove. We've got a little place for clothes. And then we would put like a baby cradle. So here's one of my rules. You do not store babies in the actual cradle. Or if you have a high chair at your table, don't store the babies in there, because children can't play with them when they're inside of the cradle. So in order for, when you've got 5 babies, and you should have at least 4 baby dolls of the different colors, okay? So you need African American, you need a Hispanic baby, you need an Asian baby, and you need a white baby. You need 4 babies, okay? And I know those are hard to find. You can find them at Savers and Goodwill and places like that. I promise you, that's where I get them all the time. And if you find a beat up doll with like that looks like Chucky because the hair's all crazy, I know how to restore those. So if you're in the valley, or if you want to send it to me, I can absolutely restore the hair and make it as good as new. But don't get creepy ones. Those are really scary. Okay, so you would take a little, let's say a little cradle, and it's really hard to choose from. Like, let's see here. Oh, look, there, no, that was sink, clothes stand, projector, easel, book stand. Okay, so I'm gonna just put another little square here that says, this is my little, I have a little bassinet maybe, or a little shelf that I'm going to put I'm going to store the babies on. Okay. So now one of the things, you know what? I need to take this out. This is goofy. Okay. Let's take this out. This is just taking up too much space. Okay. So what you need in this space, and if I could move these things, I can't, it won't even let me. So what we need here is an actual shelf. Okay, so we need a shelf. Now, oftentimes, Debbie's a big fan of making more rooms. So if you have more space, you can even create a living room area. You can create a little office space. And so you can create a separate room if you have the space, okay? So you need a shelf. So the pieces of furniture for your socio-dramatic play area, your fridge, your sink, your stove. I highly recommend you have a hutch as well. A hutch is super important, okay? And then you should have a hutch, or you can create something to make a hutch. The reason why you need a hutch is because you have a lot of stuff to store. And so this piece here, you need a shelf for your accessories. And you need gender clothes that are for both genders. So you need, a lot of teachers have fancy frilly stuff for the girls, and boys. Now we can get into a whole discussion about that, and I can very easily go there. But you need to have the frilly stuff. You need to have you should have a sports coat, some boots. You should have even some ties. And so you want to make sure that you have equal representation, okay? Because in my classroom, I didn't care how you dressed. If Bobby wanted to put on the little dress, he put on the little dress. It was not a big deal. I had a lot of little kids that just think that they're pretty. It has nothing to do with anything else. And so whole nother discussion there, but you have to make sure. And you know what? Who the best people for these kind of clothes? It's not the catalog. Okay, it's not the catalog with the community helper clothes. What is the best stuff for this is your families. And you say to them, these are the clothes that we're looking for. We're looking for some old ties. I know my husband got rid of a whole bunch of ties many years ago. And then a sports coat, like I mentioned, some boots, some skirts. I had a parent a long time ago. She gave a slip. Remember slips? People used to wear slips. She gave a long. It was it was a neutral colored, kind of like almost like a peach color, but it was light. And I had a little boy who used to put it on his head every day, and he called it his hair. It was awesome. And so you want to have that kind of stuff available to children for dress up. Okay. And if you're doing stuff like a pizza parlor or whatever, get some of those things, even get a name tag. for the pizza parlor, whatever it is that you might be integrating into your classroom. You want to get clothing to support that. All right, so you need a shelf. So this is a shelf for accessories, okay? So shelf, and I'm going to put for accessories, okay? Is that how you spell accessories? It won't fit all the way. All right, so we have, oh, you can't even see it. Oh, well. So we need a shelf for accessories. Let me see if it'll let me change the color. It does. Okay. So you want a shelf for accessories. You want a small little table. You want a place to put the babies because the babies are not stored in the actual cradle. And I'm going to make this here, which is going to be like a little cradle. Okay. And we're going to put the little cradle right there. Okay. And so that would be our little sociodramatic play area. Now, if I could squeeze this up against, I would put it catacorner this way here. I would move this over just a little bit to add space, or even maybe close enough where a kid couldn't fit into it, but gave it a little bit of room for them to be able to use it. I'm going to move this back just a tad. Okay, and then this here in the center. And if you have a small couch or you have a small something that also, you could also fit in this space. But remember, we want to use the furniture to create the barrier, okay? That's what we're trying to do. I know I had an easel over here. What happened to the easel? Did I take it away? Maybe the program is saying you have clearly too much stuff in your room, because look at the other thing disappeared too. Did you see that? The program is saying that's not what we're used for. All right, so let me do this here. So we've got fridge. All right, so we've got fridge, stove, and I wish I could move this catty corner a little bit, move this over. So that would be your sociodramatic play area. Now I'm going to take one of these shelves. Actually, I'm going to take this shelf and I'm going to move it this way. Okay. And this is going to be my block area. All right. And I'm going to do a shelf there. And then I'm going to do a shelf here. Maybe not. There we go. Okay. I'll do a shelf here. Okay. Now this is going to be my block area. You see that I'm using the shelves to create a barrier and not up against the walls. Now that you can't do that if your shelves are ginormous. We went into a classroom and they had 6-foot shelves. You can use your 6-foot shelves like in your library. Please, please, please. If you've got big shelves like that, you've got to get them anchored to the wall. And I'm surprised when I go into classrooms and no one anchors their big shelves. The other thing too is that these kids are little kids still. If you have plugs and kids are on the floor, you have to put plug protectors in those plugs. I've had a 10-year-old kid, take a key that we had in our math sorting stuff, and he stuck it inside the plug. And that was a lesson learned for me. So everywhere I go, I'm like, we stick plug protectors with children. So if you have plug right here, a little outlet there, and children are on the floor there, please put a plug protector, 2 plug protectors in there. And I know that the people who come in and vacuum the room, they pop them out. What I used to do is just keep a cup of them hanging, so I could just pull them. And every morning I would sweep through the classroom and just stick them in wherever they were pulled. And they're like $1 for a container of them. So that's what I would do for that space. So I'm going to pause here. And I'm going to see what's happening. What do I suggest on Facebook? What do I suggest to hang clothes if there's no wall for a tension rod? Well, if you are close, where are you, Lauren? You're in Mesa. So, Lauren, if you have money for, one of the best things that we have used is that thing from Ross. We got it at Ross. It's just for clothing, and we just made it very, very short, and we hang clothes with clothes hangers. And so that would be my other, and it literally looks like it's just a regular clothes thing that you drop down. You just take one of those poles. It comes together, and so you just take one out. It's about $20. I have also seen teachers take not clothespins, but they're like those, what are they called? They're like clips. They're like, I've seen colorful clips, and they will run that IKEA wire across that they use for pictures. And I've seen teachers hang 3 or 4 things, even using a clothes hanger or one of those clips to hang on that wire. but that's up against the wall. You know, it's tight up against the wall. So where, you know, it's not where a kid can get underneath it. So then children, the other thing you can also do is use those command hooks, and you can hang command hooks, maybe 4 or 5 things, and then have the small kid hangers, and then give enough space where children can, if you've got wall space. And then worst case scenario are those 3 bins that roll. You can also do that, but I have to tell you, you've got to be careful with that, because kids throw whatever comes to their mind, their hand, into those bins, and you've got to have someone, maybe that's a classroom job, cleaning that on a weekly basis, because it's a mess. It gets very messy and very cluttered. Okay. All right. So here are my blocks shown in my block area. Blocks are expensive, folks, I know. So one of the things that we have seen is that school districts are asking high schools to create blocks for them. So if you give them the shapes of blocks, and there's an intended purpose why blocks are shaped the way they are. They're the unit blocks. When they were first developed by Froebel, there was a reason why they were created that way. It's all about mathematical reasoning. And so make sure, and when you put these blocks out in your shelves, make sure that you give them the actual name that they are, half unit block, a double unit block. And so you want to make sure you put the silhouettes on there. I would do like one of those GoFundMe pages or whatever they're called for teachers. I forget, that's totally slipped my mind. But it's one of those big investments. And I will tell you, it's a big investment to have enough blocks, but it will last forever. They truly, truly last forever. And maybe there are some teachers who are willing, when they are retiring, to get rid of them. I do see those on Craigslist. And so maybe when I see them, I'll post it on our kindergarten page. But yeah, so this, and accessories, you want people, and you can use the little people with the, cutout of your children in the classroom. You want cars. Parking spots are really good for cars so that they don't walk, because that's just typically what happens. And then you also want animals, a variety of different types of animals. And then some odds and end kind of natural materials. So you want stones, you want some pine cones, you want some recycled materials. One of the cool things I saw a classroom teacher do is she took blinds, old window blinds, cut all the string out, and the blind itself became a ramp. And so she put a bunch of those together, and it was thick enough, and they became these cool ramps. And so she did some awesome things with those. Even those wrapping paper tubes, you can get those too. Pool noodles, when you cut them in the middle, those are kind of cool for that space as well, or even cutting them into circle. If there's the rings, you can put them into that space. So be creative. It's not outside of getting just your basic materials. You want children to take nothing, and make something out of it. So be creative. All right. So I don't love this kidney table. I usually get it pushed out. I was just showing you an example of what we would do if a teacher was attached to the kidney table. Okay. So I'm going to move this. And let's just pretend we have an administrator who says, sure, that would be absolutely fine. Okay, so let's just push that out. All right, so we've got a window here, and we've got sociodramatic, we've got block area here. So we've got a square rug in this space. And remember, you want children to sit on the perimeter of the rug, not in rows facing you, okay? Now, I'm going to create, let's say we have a big dry erase board here, which we often see these in the classroom, are these ginormous dry erase boards. So let me just put something there to just indicate. All right. And I'm going to create this whole space right in here to be the literacy and publishing area. So I'm going to take one of my shelves here. Oh, look, now the fridge is moving. Okay, so let me move it to the trash. So this is not a program that that works as easily as I wish that it would, but it's helping. Okay, so I got rid of the bean bag. Okay, so now the fridge is the fridge is floating. Maybe if I hit somewhere else. Okay, we'll just let the fridge float for now. All right, so I'm going to create a whole literacy area here. All right, so I'm going to bring a shelf. Oh, there's the fridge. Oh gosh, there's some comic relief here. Okay, so the fridge will stay there for now. All right, so we're gonna bring a shelf. No, we're not. We're gonna mess with the fridge some more. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring a shelf, and I'm going to, let's say I'm gonna bring it this way, because we have the art area here. Okay, all right, so here's the art area. I'm gonna put a shelf right in there because I have to protect that space. So I'm gonna close that space off right there. It might actually be a little bit tighter there. All right, so then I'm going to create kind of a literacy area right in here, or right in here, actually. I'm going to do it this way, okay? And so I'm going to bring another table that I had, because we had a whole bunch of tables in the beginning. Let me just make it. Okay, so I'm going to make another table, and I'm going to add a table right here, okay? Now, I see the square rug area as also part of the publishing and literacy area if I have a big book stand. And a big book stand, we see those still in classrooms. I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to actually call that an easel. Okay. Oops. So I'm going to bring, let's say, the easel right in this little corner here. Okay. And maybe that's where the teacher has her, you know, she uses that. Actually, let's have it float right there for right now. And then, so this was the door. I believe this was the front door. And so we know that we have to keep 6 foot from the door. Some of you have that rule. And so let's just say this is 6 feet from the door, and that right in this space, I might be able to add a little, oh, I don't know if I want to do that just yet. So we'll see about that. We'll just wait. Okay. And so we've got a little easel. We have shelf here. And then right in this space, I'm going to do my math and science space. Okay. So I'm going to create this, my writing area. So this is going to be my table right in here. And I'm going to make this my math and science. So I'm going to, oops, there's another shelf. Let me get another shelf up here. Okay. And I'm going to flip this over like this. Oops. Maybe not. All right. It doesn't want me to move it now. All right, let's try getting another one. Kind of afraid to. All right, let's flip it. Nope. And now I can't even move it. Okay, so no more shelves. Maybe if I move over here. Okay, so let me grab one of these here and just ignore that I have shelves right there. It will probably move eventually. All right. So if I have, and this easel, I would actually put it kind of a little bit closer. And if I had, and these don't even have to be ginormous shelves, but I'm going to put a table right in here. Okay. This is our use of our big tables there, our big tables. All right, so I'm going to put that there. And then let's say I have a round table. So I'm going to put this there. Okay. And I'm going to put a, another, maybe I have a small little shelf right there. Okay. Now, if you don't have these shelves, because I know some of you are thinking, I don't have all of these shelves. This is where you have to get super creative. Sometimes what teachers have done is they've taken milk crates, and you can actually, there is a plastic spray paint that you can use. Take some milk crates and you can zip tie them. So you can zip tie them together and make shelves, okay? Another thing you can do is those crates that you can buy like at Target. You know, those, Target to me is also a little expensive, but you know, if you can find those, they're just crates like to put books in, the ones that you've seen us make little couches with or little sitting things with. You can take a bunch of those and also zip tie them together. What I like to do is add a piece of plywood on the top of that that's been sanded down just to give it some weight, because sometimes when it's too, it topples a little bit, okay? And so if we have, let me see. So let's say we have this, and I wish I can't move this shelf here out of the way. Oh, the beanbag can go though. That's lovely. Okay, so let me try getting this here. All right. And so this would be our math and our science area. Okay, and so should be a smaller table. This is obviously a little too big, but it kind of closes off the space. And I know just by, this isn't to scale, folks, so we know that this looks a little cluttered, but in real life, for some of your comfort, it probably might be, but it really isn't for children. Okay, so we've got math and science, socio-dramatic, and we have, so what we're looking for now is, actually, no, I really do like the science over here. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put the science, I'm going to put a small science table over here, because I actually do like it by the window. I like to have science by the window. And if I could, caddy corner, if I could do a shelf like this, and let me see if it'll let me. It probably won't. No. So I would put like a little shelf right there for my science materials, okay? And then what we're missing here, we've got writing, and let's say I have a couch. So I have a little plush couch here. So I'm gonna put my couch right in this little space, and I'm gonna utilize some of these shelves for my book displays, okay? And then let's say right in this space here, I'm going to add, let me see here. Let me move this back, because now that I have changed the math area, I took the science over here, okay? So I'm gonna actually take this out altogether for now, if it lets me. And I'm gonna cover this space here so it's not so distracting. I'm gonna bring, so this is my math area. So you see how I divided this space here, and then this is my math table, okay? And so I'm gonna use the sofa as kind of my, and I wish I could move it over a little bit, but I would use this whole area as my, my literacy and publishing area. Okay, and if I had a little tiny table, like whether a coffee table or a little table like that, I might put that right there. And then, so in my science area, oftentimes teachers have these little book stands. And sometimes these little book stands are awesome to also put in your science area to have all your informational text about science. That's kind of cool to do. And the two specific areas that we're still missing at this point is our safe place and our tinkering area. And the other thing too is we want to make sure that there's spaces for two kids to work. Like there's one space for one or two children to come together and work. And so that's what I was thinking about this little space over here, that if this was 6 foot from the, or even putting the teacher stuff up against here, close to the, you know, the stuff that's required over here, right there. And let me make that a little bit closer there, or let's bring it over here actually, okay? So then her stuff is kind of right there, all the stuff. And you know, it's often kind of depends on your connection to your internet, but a lot of schools are now moved to wireless, so it's not as much of a big deal as it used to be. And then let's say this little space here, we put a little table. So let me put a little table right here. That might be just a space for two children to use, kind of a, or maybe a writing space or a listening center, a listening workstation right in there, okay? So that's a nice little space to do that. Right in here would be also another little nook to put a space for one or two children to work if you had that. You could even put a little carpet right in here if this was pulled away from the wall enough. You could put a little round circle rug right there with a basket of a book and maybe a prop of some puppets or a costume to go with the book. And so let's say in this space here, so we've got our math and science, and I'm going to, let me see, I would probably, I'm trying to think here where I would put this. If I could set a space right in here, this might be where my safe place would be, is right in this space right here. Of let's say I could create a small little cushion of some sort. Let me move this here, and let me make this kind of circular. So if I did a little space right here, to a little safe place for kids right in that little corner, okay? And make it nice and cozy. And if I had kind of just a simple, and everybody has different furniture, we've seen all kinds of cool pieces of furniture. So if we had just some simple, let's see, this goes in the trash here. Okay, and then that goes in the trash. All right. Then if we had some simple little furniture here, I would kind of, and this here might be something that goes with the literacy and publishing area. Okay, so this whole area is literacy and publishing. So we have our listening area here. We have maybe some big books, and in this space, this would also be where I put some floor puzzles, quite honestly, because there often isn't any space anywhere else to do floor puzzles. Here's my table with my word wall right in here for children to access that. And then some reading area. So then this shelf won't move, but we would need some shelving. So tables, areas need to connect to shelves. See, like this table connects to this one. It goes with this one. So this is math, okay? And then this shelf here goes with our science area, okay? So the shelf has to go with the materials have to go where children can figure out where the stuff from the shelf goes to. And then on our publishing and literacy area, we've got shelving here. And then maybe even, I think if we had even some place right in here, possibly, where we could actually put some of those materials as well. So you want to make sure that there are shelves that are connected to the spaces. And then I can't move this. And so because of kind of where we're at in terms of what we have, I would see if I could create a small little tinkering space. Okay, so a small little tinkering space right in here. Or even, yeah, maybe a small little tinkering space. Or even if I moved science over here, I could even put a small little tinkering space right in there. So a small little space for just some tinkering to happen. Depending on what the shelves look like, we can use the shelves. Depending on whether they are movable at all, if they're built-ins, we could even create a nice little space there. But we want to make sure that things are protected on most sides, okay? And again, sorry about the software. It's the first time I've ever used it. And I wish I could kind of kitty it, but I can't. So, because we would do that in real life. Okay, so this is kind of a general idea. And this thing won't move here. Okay. Of how we would create spaces in the classroom. One of the things that we work really hard at, and again, oh, that one moved. Yay! So I have to keep doing this until it moves. So one of the things that we want to create when we're doing this type of space is not only enclosed areas, but also we don't want any running space. So we don't want children to, and here, again, it's not to scale, but when you're in the actual classroom, if you have all of your furniture, or you have, one of the things that we saw many years ago is when teachers had the sociodramatic play area and the block area all around the edges of the room. That doesn't help children go into deep experience of that play. But even more importantly, it created lots of opportunities for running. And so we want to break down the space. Oh, there we go. That one moved. Okay. Maybe I just need to give it a little bit of time. But we want to break down the space so that it doesn't create space where they can kind of aimlessly start running around. Okay. All right. This one I would move over, but I can't seem to do that. And I would possibly put a shelf right in here. So people ask me all the time, how many shelves do you need? It depends. We can, and then sometimes you don't even need like a full-on shelf that you know, the ones that we buy for children. You can just use the little, teachers collect little shelving units, even little drawer things. Sometimes we can just makeshift one of those and create kind of a barrier with that piece of furniture. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of virtual experience. I apologize for the delay in the program itself. I'll have to play with it some more, or actually have to see if there are more software that can do this so we can get online. I'm going to take a look at Sandy's. She sent me pictures of her classroom and seeing if we can replicate it on here, and then give her some ideas about what she can do in her classroom, and we might be able to do that online as well. So anyhow, I want to let you know again that this is, the website is classroom.forteachers.org. And my plan for tomorrow is, I'm hoping, if all goes well, that I can start the next segment of First 40 Days. So thank you all very, very much.